You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. This is episode 73, and we're recording this on October 4th. And I'm one of your hosts, Xander and joined with me is James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Greetings and salutations, everybody. It is October. It is fall. It is raining and cool, and we're drinking tea. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I hope you all are well.
We are, man. It was funny. You texted me right before we started the show, and you were just like, man, I'll be on in a minute. I'm making some tea. And then I send you a picture of my Castlevania cup, and I'm right there with you. So
you have the Earl Grey, I have the green.
It's just the weather, man. Like you were saying earlier, it's really breezy and cold and overcasty. And actually, the picture I used for this episode is I use Joaquin Phoenix as like a hurricane going towards the coast because we actually dodged a hurricane. We almost had a hurricane this weekend.
Definitely. We had a lot of rain. I was surprised when I'd heard that the rain we had wasn't even related to the hurricane at all. It's been raining for almost 10 days straight here, which is one of the longest rains of rain that I think we've had. And, to everybody who's getting any damage from that, I hope everybody is well and safe. I'm not really sure the tracking or which way it's going, but I know it missed us, and I'm thankful for that, and I'll just take this cruddy rain we have. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. I mean, and I think you can agree, James, fall and winter is like my favorite season of the year. And the reason I say fall and winter is because there's really no fall or winter here on where I'm at, and probably the same for you. It's just one day it just gets cold. It just stays that way.
Yeah, you get that nice borderline where it's like you can still wear shorts if you want. Me, I think since I'm old, I get cold in the morning, so I tend to start wearing pants a little bit sooner just due to the morning. But I'll at least still go ahead and wear a hoodie if I just have my shorts on. But you can hang in the shorts and stuff for a while. A lot of people do. And then, yeah, it's just one day it goes from okay to just, it's cold.
But yeah. And also, we didn't get to record last week at our usual time. We had some other stuff come up. And with that being said, since our last episode, they had Tokyo Game Show, which is pretty much like Japan's E3. I mean, all the big developers go and do a, con there, and you get to see all about the new games coming out. And there was some really interesting stuff. And I think the one developer that I got really excited about was Square Enix. Square Enix is coming out with some great stuff, a lot of Dragon Quest stuff, some more information on Final Fantasy 15. Also, they showed off Dark Souls 3. I know it's not Square, but Dark Souls 3, they showed that off. But they mentioned something that I was like, man, this is something that James might be excited about, that I was really excited about, and that is the HD re-release of the original Yakuza.
That's right. It's the 10-year anniversary this year. And it seems like there had been some rumors going around. Either it was, rumors or just something people really wanted, even over here, was, a HD remake of, 1 and 2. Because they were, not necessarily hard to find. I think people wanted the graphical upgrade. And, for PS2 games, sometimes they border around the $30 to $40 mark. Which is sometimes, like me, I don't really want to pay that sometimes on a game. I just see that. I'm like, I'd rather pay 5 or 10. But, yeah, 10-year anniversary. Yakuza is really big in Japan. And they love it over there. And they're getting an HD remake, which I'm assuming, did they say what system it was? I'm assuming it's PS4.
Yeah, I think it is PS4. And, I mean, I don't know any more information about it coming over to the States. But, I know I've expressed my concerns about HD remakes in the past. But this is one thing I do like about HD remakes. Yakuza, the original, didn't come out last year. It wasn't a PS3 game. It was a PS2 game. And while the first game is not rare by any means, it is pretty uncommon. It's getting hard to find, and it's not even that expensive of a game. It's just you don't see it around that often. And, you know, since we started this podcast, I've always said that I need to play this game because this was a game that you hailed. You're like, dude, you gotta play this. Because I kind of pushed it off when it first came out because I was like, oh, this is like a Japanese GTA game. But now it's like, I might actually have a chance to play it. I'm really excited.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm hoping it ends up coming over to the States too. You know,
Me too.
With the coming download release of Yakuza 5 that people, you know, the fans really wanted. They requested to Sony, you know, when they reached out on what games, like what Japanese games do you guys want to come over here? And Yakuza hit on the top of the list. So, you know, I'm sure it was a lot with Sony helping out with Sega to get it out. And finally, it got pushed back. I think the last date I heard was near the end of this month, actually. And Yakuza 5's coming out. I saw where, I might have mentioned this before in one of the last shows, where you can pre-buy it now, and I think it's only $35, and then normal price is like $40, which to me is, I mean, that's like a new game. Well, PS3, which if it came out on disc would be, you know, $50-$60, $40. It's something I really, really want, and the only way I can get it is download. So you know what? I don't have a problem with it. I think the price that I would gladly pay, $60, or I would pay more, I'm not gonna lie, but they're hitting me with the $40 mark, which I think is beautiful. That's what I've been wanting for download games. It's just, you know, a little bit of payback to me. Like, how about a cut in the price, since I'm just not really getting anything. But just the fact it's finally coming out, and the more people that buy it, I think could help in getting it over here. Because the first one over here, it had voice actors, and they had Michael Madsen. They had some, you know, really cool names. And the second one, they went ahead and dropped that, I think, due to price. And I'm fine. Keep the Japanese language in the game. Do some subtitles. That's all we need. Put out Yakuza 1, and then maybe that would, you know, reach out to some more people, and maybe those people will check out 5 or some of the others, and maybe we can get this series back over here in the States again on a full-time basis.
Yeah, because
that would be my hope.
Yeah, because they did mention that they're coming out with Part 6. And I'm like, you know, if this sells really well, maybe we'll get 6 over here in the States. Even if it's just digital, you know, that's just really cool. I like to see a series that has like such a cult following, like the Yakuza series, get more recognition. You know, because like I said, I mean, the people that I know that's played the game hail it, and they say it's awesome. And then people like me who never got to play it, we want to play it, but it's just not around. And I mean, like, I'm seeing some of the prices online, and, you know, to get the original PS2 version, it's not that much. It's really not. But, you know, why not play the definitive version? You know, if I can get it on PS4 and play it in HD and have that for the first time, why not? And plus, you know, I can live stream it. I could do like a live stream of the original Yakuza game. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's just, it's great to see, and it's one, too, that, like you mentioned, you know, you can find it used, but lots of times you just don't see it. Like,
Yeah.
I never see it, and if I do happen to see one of the ones used and it's a good price, I often will pick it up, and I've given them to friends before. And anybody that's interested, Yakuza 4, it's still a great one to start with. It's really cheap. It's on PS3, and it has recaps, like little story modes that plays all the cutscenes from the first game if you want to catch up, because it is a long-going story throughout the series. And then,
yeah, that's what else I was going to ask you, man. I was going to ask you because I remember I saw some people on Facebook page. They were talking about the game, and someone was wanting to get into it. And they were like, which one should I just start with the first one? And someone's like, yeah, you can play the first and second. They're like, but, you know, I believe that's what they said. Part 4 has recaps, and it kind of fills you in if you're just wanting to get into it. That's cool. They've
carried that on. Like, Part 2 had a recap of 1, 3 of 1 and 2, 4 of, they keep doing it in each game. And, you know, the main reason I said to steer away from 3, which is probably even cheaper than 4, is just 4 gives you 4 really cool different characters to play as, and 3 has the whole orphanage scene at the beginning, which I fear would turn people off from the game if that's the first thing they play and they're like, I'm running an orphanage. Like, what? Why did you tell me about this game? Like, you're stupid. Why was this hidden? And I just fear that that's why I go ahead and recommend 4. This has got the recaps, still a great game. And plus the 4 stories, you've heard about these people in the past games, and some of them you hadn't. So they kind of get their own new story branched out. And then, they also have in Japan, they have Yakuza Ishin, which is one based like in the samurai period. Ooh. And that's the second game they've done. The very first Yakuza on PS3 was Yakuza Kenzan, which I have, and it was set in the samurai times. And it's got the same characters, but just it's a different story. And, the Yakuza gets its own branch-off game. It had a couple PSP games, so you can tell it's really big over there. Just here, it does have more of that cult following. And I think you tend not to see it used as much on those older ones because people keep them.
Yeah, and it seems like Sony's doing a really good job bringing games over to the West. I mean, a good example would be a lot of the Square Enix stuff. I mean, there's so many Dragon Quest games coming out. I mean, we got Dragon Quest Heroes is coming out this month. And they also announced that Dragon Quest Builders is coming out in Japan, I believe, January. So if this is coming out to the West, it'll probably come out sometime like summer 2016. And, it's funny because I tried to play Minecraft. I tried to get into Minecraft because, it was a big buzzed game, and I was like, I want to check this out. But it just wasn't as fun to me. It just didn't click. But Dragon Quest Builders is essentially the same thing, but it's got that Dragon Quest element. So I'm still going to get it just because it's based off the first Dragon Quest game. And, that game just has so much nostalgia. It was my first RPG. So I think that'd be kind of cool to play a Minecraft-like game that has, like, actual RPG elements. And they are coming out with a Minecraft story game that actually has a story mode to it that I might check out because I thought the story looked very comical. Maybe it's made by the Telltale guys, and me and you, James, we're big fans of those guys, and they're good at storytelling. And I was like, well, maybe this will make me like Minecraft because when I see a game that has a lot of following and a lot of people into it, I want to be into it too. And I was like, get me a part. I want to be a part of this. So I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, Minecraft is just, it's always, it's one of those games that's like, that's going to be a lot of kids' big video game childhood memories.
Oh, yeah.
It's Minecraft. I really have no idea. I mean, I guess in a sense, is it kind of like a Lego world in a game where you can just build and interact with people? And
yeah, I mean, it's got a really cool premise, like you make your own world and your own shelter because, I mean, the whole thing is kind of like a survival game, because if you're out at night and you're not in your shelter, you get these, like, bad guys that attack you and try to kill you and shit. So you gotta, like, get material and build shelters, and then you start building, like, your own, like, little town or whatever. And people's, like, made all sorts of crazy stuff. But, yeah, you brought up a good point. I mean, this game, is gonna be, kids now, when they grow up, they're going to be like, man, I remember playing Minecraft, like how we do with, like, Super Mario. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it's like they've managed to get that, it's kind of funny with the Mario Maker coming out. It's kind of like we get the childhood back in the making world sense of kind of like what they have with Minecraft. Like, I'm sure it was, Mario Maker was slightly inspired by that, as Minecraft was, it just inspired by other games, and probably Legos and just everything combined into one. Now, the Dragon Quest Heroes you mentioned, is that the one that's going to be like the Hyrule Warriors?
Yeah, and actually I pre-ordered the limited edition off the Square Enix website, and it comes in a treasure chest. I get like a slime plushie, some DLC, a lanyard, I think like a keychain, and I think like a little bit, maybe either an art book or a soundtrack that comes with it. But I was like, man, I got to get this. And it was funny. I'll go ahead and tell the listeners now. If you guys pre-order a limited edition off the Square website, just be very prepared. Because it's only $1, the pre-order, to put your name down in the list. They don't charge you until it ships. But they ended up charging me a month early before it was released. So all I can say is if you do pre-order a game off the Square Enix website, especially special editions like this one here was $120. Make sure you had that money on you, because if you don't have it on you, even at the time it's okay, but when it gets close to it, about a month in advance, be sure you had the money in your account. Otherwise, if you don't have it in there, they'll actually cancel it. So I was like, oh shit, I remember I checked my phone, I had an email, I was like, yeah, be prepared, September 26th, we're going to be taking money out for Dragon Quest Heroes.
Yeah, it's always like, best to, if you're gonna pre-order something. In my opinion, it's like you got that money in there, just try to keep it in there that whole time, just for that. Because not only could you maybe not get the game, it's like they could try to take it. You don't have the funds, you get a fee. It's just a big pain in the ass. Something else could bounce. Just trouble. Just be careful with stuff like that, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And before we go on our break, I did want to talk about a little bit of Amiibo news. We haven't talked about Amiibos in quite some time.
Well, never talk about Amiibos.
I know, right? Well, it seems that Amiibos are getting easier to find. There's been a lot of reports of even Wave 1 getting reprinted at Toys R Us. People have been talking about finding Villager Amiibos, and it's pretty awesome, man. I'm glad that it's starting to get a little easier, and I've noticed with this last wave, they're not as hard to come by. Like, I can actually still go to GameStop now and find a bunch of Ganondorfs, or find a bunch of Zero Suit Samus, or even some people's gotten the Retro 3-pack. My friend Robert from Your Geeky Tipster off of YouTube, he got the Retro Pack a couple of days ago, and the Retro Pack came out last month. So it really shows you that the Amiibo thing either is starting to die down and people are starting to get a little bit more tame with it, or it shows that Nintendo's actually starting to put them more out, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hanging. It probably is a little bit of both, but I think it would probably be, say, more like 70-30 or 80-20% with just, Nintendo putting out more. Which is what we said. Just put out more, get the money from it. Why let other people make money off these secondhand when Nintendo could just be getting it themselves? But better than that, people are able to get the product.
Exactly.
Especially like kids, the little kid that wants the crap for his birthday, maybe he can get his Ganon,
Definitely. But yeah, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. And, what I'm going to actually start doing when we take our little breaks, our little music breaks, is I've been looking up games that came out around this time years ago, different years. Like this one right here is going to be Mega Man 04 that came out 2005 on the Game Boy Advance. Some music from that. So sit back, guys. Check it out. If you guys haven't played the game, be sure to check it out on Game Boy Advance, and you can also get the collection on the Nintendo DS. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about skateboarding games, especially Tony Hawk 5, the Retro VGS. There's some more news on that, and just some randomness. So sit back and relax, guys, and we'll be right back. And we are back, guys. That was some music from Mega Man 04 release on the Game Boy Advance, and also you can get the collection on the Nintendo DS, which I actually have it, and it is absolutely awesome. If you guys love the Metroidvania type of gameplay with some Mega Man flavor, this game's definitely for you. Now, yeah, we're going to get into the VGS Retro Console. This is something that, you and I have been really looking forward to. We thought it was a really cool idea, but they've had a little bit of hiccups. But they might be redeeming themselves. I mean, this is really interesting. First off, as we all know, this is going to be a brand new retro console that has the Jaguar shell to it. It was made by the same guy that writes and owns the Retro magazine that's been coming out, and great, fantastic magazine. And, it's got its own, controller, but it's, hooked through a USB, so you can use any sort of USB controller. Also has the Sega Genesis ports in there, so you could hook up a Genesis controller or Atari or Sega Master System. It's got a lot of availability to it, and they've also announced that they're going to be making special adapters so you can actually hook in your old retro games into it as well, almost like a clone console, like the Retron 5 or something like that. But the thing that kind of caused a big sting on it was the fact that they had an Indiegogo. And see, there's a big difference between Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And the reason why they took the Indiegogo route at first is because they actually didn't have a working prototype. They didn't have an actual console to show it off. So they were doing the Indiegogo, and the Indiegogo they're asking for $1 million. And the console is going to cost $300, and cartridges were going to cost around $50 to $60. And that caused a huge stink in the retro community. Some people were all about it. Some people were just like, this is garbage. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And ultimately, the Indiegogo failed, but it's still not dead yet. It's not dead in the water. And like I even said to the creator, there's nothing wrong with tweaking a product because they are bringing it to Kickstarter. And with that being said, they're going to have a working prototype to kind of show it off. And they also talked about adjusting the price and adjusting the cartridge prices as well. What do you think about this, James?
Overall, originally we talked about this some before, and there's an older, really great interview with the guy that's behind it on the Retro League podcast. And I remember hearing that interview and I got really pumped about it. I just like the idea of it. I'm sure many people did, just a new cartridge-based system. And, thinking of the price, you originally hear, $150, maybe, up to $2. And I was just really considering supporting it. And I was excited just the thought of it. So, of course, you don't know how it's going to end up going. It could just be, it could go good or it could go bad. It's probably really one way or the other. And the last one I had heard with the price going up, and I'd read a lot on their page and boards, and, the price hike really upset people. Because when it pushed up to, and that 300 was a minimum 300, that would be the lower end system where there would be some other ones that were better.
Yeah, they had custom colors. They had a special gold one and all that shit.
Yeah, and they even started doing some type of bidding for the first serial number, which I had heard as a theory of why some of their prices had maybe dropped that they had collected originally, because someone would put in an amount to get that serial number 1, and someone else would outbid them, so that other person would take that extra money they put in to get it away, and they would end up losing it. It just kind of seemed like a cycle that kept going. But when the price range hit up to 300, that was when I was like, I just can't, because I have to get a PS4 before I get this. I need to get a system that I know is going to have plenty of games, and the fact that there's not really any games, listed. It's going to be tough for them to get exclusives, which I said they would really need to get, because, like you said, if the price range, whether it's up to 60 or 40, and say it's Shovel Knight. Now, some people would buy the Shovel Knight on a cartridge just because everybody loves Shovel Knight. It's a great game, and it would just be maybe a cool collector piece to have. But the fact is, you can get that for $10-15. They're not going to be able to survive on these games that we can just download for $10-15. You know, we're all people that support physical media, but at that same time, when I can buy, you know, twice, 3, 4 times as many games to download as the price of one cartridge game, there's going to be a problem there. And, like you said, not having a prototype at the time to, you know, what exactly are we dealing with here? It just kind of ended up being a little bit mysterious, and I think some of the things just turned people off a little bit along the way.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. You brought up a good point about the games, you know, being cheaper, because the problem with the VGS is they do have some indie support, but a lot of the indie games that are coming out for the VGS on cart, a lot of them are already out. You can buy them on Steam for $10, or you can buy them on like the Wii U, you know, Virtual Console or PSN or, you know, Xbox Arcade. You can buy those now. I mean, they do have a couple exclusives. Like, I know Gamester81 is working on Tiny Nights. That's going to be, I think they were talking at one point that might have been a packing game for the VGS, which is cool. I love packing games. And, you know, when you hear the guy talk about it, you can tell he's really into it. You can tell he's not trying to exploit the retro community and trying to make a quick buck. I mean, this guy loves retro games, and this is ultimately a dream of his, and I really support that. And that to me makes me want it to succeed. I want it to succeed a lot. Now, I'm not saying, when I say that, it doesn't mean I might not support the Kickstarter, and it's no ill feelings towards the product. It's just I've been kind of turned off of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I've been kind of turned off of crowdfunding on all mediums, not just his. So it's no ill feelings towards that. But yeah, I think them tweaking the price, showing off a prototype, showing exactly what we're getting ourselves into will kind of turn people's heads a little bit more in the right direction, because in the overall senses of it, it's really, really cool. It's really awesome. But with a $300 price tag, it's a lot like the Nintendo like analog system that one company was coming out with. I can't remember the name of the company, that they were making that HD, HDMI compatible Nintendo that was like $400, made of like, you know, metal off of spaceships.
Yeah, it was metal. It could play, it had the board to play, original boards too.
Yeah.
Supposedly to play Nintendo and Famicom games. I watched a video on it. I can't remember what YouTuber was doing it, but it was really it was kind of cool. I mean, he thought it was a great system. I mean, the price is like, it's definitely for more of a collector audience, but as far as the picture and everything, he said was really amazing. And it had 4 controller ports on there too, if I remember correctly.
It did. And see, that's the thing, is there's a difference between the retro collector and the retro like connoisseurs. The retro connoisseurs are the guys that have like the Neo Geo and a bunch of games, or they have like a modded, consoleized MVS, and that's their thing. They collect retro, like some people collect cars, and I want the VGS, I want it to appeal to everyone, not just that crowd. So with a $300 price range, the average Joe like you and I are like, with $300, I can get an Xbox One, or you could get a PS4. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have to definitely move up to the next gen of consoles before I kind of, step back to one. And like I said, well, I fully, I still support it. I hope it does good, and I hope some of the problems, they get worked out and kind of get the dirt off their name a little bit, because they seem to really catch some crap. I think some of the people that were working on it too had lashed out a little bit at some of the people on the boards. Not sure the specifics, but people just online in general can be kind of mean and nasty, and sometimes people can just lash out without really meaning to. You just kind of just get bombarded with hate, and sometimes instead of trying to properly correct things, you can just kind of lash out. But hopefully it does. I'm curious about the adapter things. I heard that too, but it was like, do you need like an adapter for each one, like each system. Like I wondered how that would work. When you could just go get it kind of makes I've been thinking a little bit more about getting a Retron 5, just space wise and such.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting a Retron 5 too as well. I noticed they're a lot more accessible than they used to be. I remember when they first came out, they were really hard to come by and people were hiking up the price. And now you can go into like a Books A Million and Barnes & Noble and find one for like, $130. And yeah, for the price and the space, it kind of makes me want to get one. And now that I'm doing a lot more live streaming and I have like a capture card, I hook it through HDMI and do, live streams of retro games without using an emulator, if that's what I wanted to do.
You had mentioned to me, too, that they were making a Game Gear adapter for it, too, right?
Yes, and, that's really cool, too. So I'm glad that they're still putting out stuff for the Retron 5, and it's becoming a little more accessible, and, I still want to have, some Famicom games. I still want to start collecting some imports, and, to be perfectly honest, that's a great way to do it.
Definitely, it opens up so much. And like I know there's an adapter for I don't know if you can use the original one too, but I know there's one made that plays the Master System games on there. And I was wondering if they make an adapter for the Game Gear. I have the adapter that plays Master System games on the Game Gear, so can I plug that adapter into the Game Gear adapter and play Master System games on the Retron 5?
Oh,
I wonder.
That's a really good question. I mean, the thing is what's really cool about the Retron 5 is they do online patches. They do upgrades on the console. So, I mean, I know at one point, it couldn't play the 32X, but who knows? Maybe later on down the line, it'll be able to play the 32X. I know you can use the skinnier, retro bit, I believe, made it. It's a skinnier power-based converter that you can plug in and play Master System games onto your Retron 5. So, I mean, who knows? That would be really, really awesome.
Yeah, that one just grows a little bit more appealing as it goes on with just the space, instead of having 5, 6, 7 systems just laying around with cords tangled up all over the place. Like I have just one nice little thing. Plus, you can use any of the extra controllers, because a buddy of mine has the Retron 5, and I might borrow his sometime. He mentioned that sometime I could borrow it. I might do that and check it out and give it an experiment. I know I don't like the controller at all. It was pretty cruddy, but hey, you don't need it. You got lots of other options.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, it's. Who knows? If I could find a really, really cheap Retron 5, like even one for like $100, I might buy it in a heartbeat. I mean, just to save on space, because between the games and the amiibos, I'm running out of so much room that, I might want to, put my Nintendo and Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and like some shrink wrap in a container and put it on top of my closet and just keep it for later and just have that Retron 5. Now, something else we wanted to talk about too is we were wanting to talk a little bit about skateboarding games a little bit, because this week was actually the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which unfortunately isn't making the shredding news that everyone expected. It's getting kind of slammed in reviews. Kind of sad about that. One of the things is they said the game is not broken. I heard the gameplay was actually pretty decent, but it's just not up to par to the Tony Hawk standards that people were expecting. I know it had a day one patch that was actually bigger than the game itself. The game's only 8 gigs, which is like the standard size for a DVD. So, I mean, it was really weird. It was almost like the day one patch was the actual game that you would get. So, I don't know. It's one of those games that I might get it when it gets really, really cheap. I still want to play it. I love Tony Hawk.
Yeah, we'll both say neither of us have played Tony Hawk 5, but I mean, you can't always go just by reviews, but when the reviews are just like that scathing, it really is kind of a warning to use caution, because the idea of it was cool. It was like, man, Tony Hawk, like, I don't remember hearing about a Tony Hawk game in a while. Seems like it's been a bit. It's probably one sooner than I remember. but it wasn't as in your face as much. You know, it was a huge, huge game at one time. And the fact that it seemed to, you know, come out with a, you know, part 5, it's not underground or this or that. It's like, it's one in the series. And you do kind of hold things like that to higher expectations. Whether if it had come out as, you know, Tony Hawk, something else, you know, 2015 Skate Radathon or something. That one you might be a little bit more forgiving if it doesn't hold up.
Yeah, at least it wasn't another Tony Hawk ride. That was, I think that's what really killed the series when they tried to do. I mean, they had the right idea, you know, to have that skateboarding. It made me think of the old arcade skateboarding game. I think it was called like Top Skater, I believe it was called. You would see in the arcades, and it was like they had the 2 rails, and you would stand on a skateboard and hold onto the rails and do like tricks. And I remember it was a really expensive arcade cabinet too. It was always like $1 to play, you know, 3 rounds.
Wow.
So I mean, like, they had the right idea kind of putting that in there. And, you know, skateboarding games are really big at the time. You know, Tony Hawk being a prime example of making that genre for what it was. And, you know, then you had other skateboarding games, like one of my favorites was Thrasher Skate and Destroy, Grind Session. Then we started getting like the SSX tricky snowboarding games. You remember the Extreme series, like the 2 Extreme, 3 Extreme?
I remember the names, but I don't quite remember playing those.
Yeah, those were out like pre-Tony Hawk, and they were like, it was more of a racing game. It was like skateboard. You could skateboard, you could BMX, you could ride rollerblades, or you can even street luge. And everyone would be like going downhill using this, and it almost had like a road rash mechanic to it, where you could actually like knock people off of the stuff. And it was a really old game on 989 Studios. You know, the same guys that made games like the Siphon Filter series, the first 2. And you know, it's, you know, to this day, I mean, it really hasn't aged well. It looks pretty bad, but it was a really fun game. I really enjoyed it because you could do tricks. And, you know, you go through, like, little paths and rings, and that would like, increase, I believe, your stamina. And, you know, you'd get close to another skateboarder, you, like, kick them off, and the street luge always looked funny to me, but...
Yeah, that's a type of game, you know, we can go back to. I remember the very first skateboarding game that I recall playing was at Showbiz Pizza, home of many happy memories such as Pac-Land. But I remember playing 720 at the arcade. That was, you know, one of the first arcade, you know, at least I'm sure there was some Atari skateboarding games, but, you know, definitely one of the first arcade ones. It had a very cool look, colorful. The speakers were on top of the cabinet, so it gave it a look like a boom box. You know, like you'd be sitting out skateboarding with your friends, and you got the radio with you. That was up top. And I couldn't quite remember. I was thinking it had a trackball, but I don't know if it had maybe actually had a joystick that moved in a circular motion. But you would basically, you know, go around your neighborhood, and then you try to collect money to get to the skate parks. And from there, you had a couple of different events, you know, such as a half pipe, and there was a kind of like a downhill race. And the biggest thing I remember was the damn bees.
Yeah.
If you took too long to get to the park, bees would come out, and I think that was when the Skate or Die would come out, and it would say that on the screen, which we all know Skate or Die kind of linked onto another game, one of the most popular.
Skate or Die. Die. Oh, man.
We got that one was huge, because just skateboarding in general at that time. Skate or Die came out in 89. I remember, man, yeah, I would have been 11 years old, was in like 5th grade, and just skateboarding culture in general was on a rise. You know, whether it's the, you know, Vision streetwear shoes, anybody remembers those. I remember I got told by someone I shouldn't wear those because I didn't skate. Because yes, I was a poser. I wore the skate clothes, didn't skate, but it was okay because I hung out with a couple of the skater kids, so I felt I kind of got a pass. They didn't have a problem with me wearing the shit, so I went ahead. You know, bright pink shorts with skulls, all the clothing, gotcha, Quicksilver, all
Oh,
that good
man.
stuff. And Skate or Die was like at the heart of it. It's just a fun game to play by yourself. Yeah, it's okay. But it was one that was more with friends. You had the events on there. It was set up kind of like an Olympic style, like winter games set up like that. You had all the events you could play in, your typical ramps and half pipes, but everybody loved the pool joust with the giant Q-tips.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. And, well, I also think of, when I think of Skate or Dies, I think of another really big honorable mention, and I love this game so much, is Town and Country Surf Design.
Oh, dude, that one I totally skipped that one in my head, man. That was my very
Oh,
first game I got with my Nintendo at Christmas. That was
such
what
a
I
good
picked out.
game. The soundtrack was awesome, and I remember I'd always pick like the guy with the Ooga Booga mask.
Yeah, Tiki Man.
Yeah, I'd always choose him, and because I thought the other guy looked kind of lame.
Joe Cool, Tiki
Yeah.
Man, and I was really good. The skating on this game, for those that haven't played, it was almost, almost kind of like a platforming game on a skateboard.
Yeah, it was.
You didn't have your typical half pipe. You had ramps, you could rail slide, but it was all along the level. And then you had the surfing, which felt a little bit more like surfing. Kind of pointless, but I was really good at it. And you had, I don't remember the gorilla's name, and then you had Cool Cat, I believe, that was my dude.
Yeah.
The cat in the tuxedo. And I was really good at the surfing. But yeah, that game was just the music. That was one. It's just going in my head right now.
And you remember the beginning of it when it had like the wave sounds? It sounded like static being turned up and down like at a certain rhythm, but it did make you feel like you were listening to like waves crashing upon the shore. It's like, it was so cool.
Yeah, it was very, very peaceful. And Town and Country, I didn't realize till way later that it had a sequel.
Yeah, it did.
The Thrilla Gorilla, that was named Thrilla's Safari. And it was, to me, a bit more like the skateboarding section in the game, like a platform game, but it was like even more. And like that was the heart of it, which like skateboarding and platforming, it sounds kind of weird, but Skate or Die also attempted this with Skate or Die 2. And the search for Double Trouble, which was really odd because you just skated around malls, the beach, and you could shoot your paintball gun, and you didn't really do you could rail slide a bit. But the heart of that game, honestly, was kind of what I think skateboarding game fans wanted, was that double half pipe, the Double Trouble. And they give you that from the start. And we used to just sit and do the tricks on the ramp, and you'd hit the middle one, and sometimes you'd break your board right in the middle and like split your body in half, and just your head would be laying there on top of the ramp.
And like, what do you used to say? Because I remember like when you would die, he would like take his skateboard and he'd break it in half, and he'd say something. It'd be like, "No," or something like that.
Yeah, or something like that's not cool. Or...
And then you had the girl in the building in the background. When you start doing a lot of tricks, she like falls in love with you and starts like peering out the window like Juliet with like hearts fluttering around her head. You remember that?
Yeah, I think you'd even get like some bonus points when she was staring out.
Yeah,
too. We managed to get past the odd platforming, and if anything, that game was worth it just for that ramp. And, along the way, you had a few others pop up. You had your California games, but I think the true skateboarding experience is probably a game, kind of like Guitar Hero probably made people go out and try guitar. This game made people try out skateboarding. Like, we'd finally got to where wrestling games were hitting a point to where they were starting to get better and better, and then you get the ultimate skateboarding game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Oh yeah, I remember when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out, I had a demo disc from a PlayStation. I can't remember if it was a PlayStation Underground magazine disc, or I think I might have had two. I think I might have had one from the Underground and then one from Pizza Hut. Because Pizza Hut had some promotion where you would order a pizza and the delivery guy would of course bring your pizza, your 2-liter, your wings, and he would also give you a PlayStation demo disc. And I remember it had Tony Hawk, it had a couple other games on it, but I just remember it had Final Fantasy VIII and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on it, and I was so down with that. And my buddies and I would just play the demos over and over again until we would get the games. And I think the biggest thing too about Tony Hawk was also the soundtrack. They always had great soundtracks.
Definitely, they'd have licensed music on there, whether it was some newer punk bands or old classic ones, Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
It was a soundtrack that if you weren't burnt out by it, by playing the game all the time, you'd probably initially be like, man, this would just be a cool soundtrack to have, which I'm sure they probably made, released soundtrack kind of like GTA did. But this game, it just, anything you wanted to do in a skateboarding game that you were just held back by as far as, older graphics or engines. And this game just opened it up and was, it was just, one of the most awesome games ever, I think. At that time, it was just a game you sat around with a group of friends, like no matter how, you might have 8 people sitting around the TV trading off a controller playing some damn Tony Hawk.
Yeah, playing either like tag or playing horse. I remember playing horse with a lot of my friends.
Oh yeah,
trying to rake up the points and stuff like that.
That one was just, you'd always have that one person that could get the extra points. You get to like a tough part on the level, and it's like hand the controller over to him when everybody else fails. And it was that, it brought in that checklist format.
Especially with 2. With 2, they added that manual mode. So you could do manual so you could do combos better. And then they would have like special characters they would add in Tony Hawk. Like I remember they had like Spider-Man, Darth Maul. They had James Hetfield from Metallica. I believe they even had Gina Jameson, the porn star. They had her in there. And of course they had to create a skater mode in part 2 and to create a park. It was, to me, when I think of Tony Hawk, that is essentially like a game I remember and I associate it with summer. Because that was just like my summertime game. Me and my friends would play that, and then after we would play that, we would go outside and skateboard, or if it was raining, we would just play Tony Hawk all day. And, when we were mentioning the soundtrack, what was cool about that soundtrack is it was awesome, and it was, a lot of people got introduced to a lot of punk bands and a lot of, different kinds of music from Tony Hawk, because I remember a lot of my friends, they hadn't heard of Dead Kennedys or AFI or Primus, some of those bands. They didn't hear about them, or Bad Religion. And, once that came out, man, shit, so awesome.
I always liked that one song. It was like, you gotta wash your ass. Let you be funky. I don't remember which one that was. I think that was on part 2, maybe. That was the one song. It was just so weird, but just everything you could do, getting up on buildings, like grinding on the side of a skyscraper, flying through the air, rail sliding down. It really was so open and allowed you, it made you feel like you were a skateboarder. And, I know.
So arcadey too.
Yeah, it was definitely anybody could kind of play it. And you definitely had to, put your time in if you wanted to be really skilled. I was never really skilled at it, but it's still a blast. Whether the complete ins and outs, or you can just do basic stuff. You're still going to have fun. It's just that freedom that it gives you. And like I said, it made a lot of people probably go out and bust their ass trying to skateboard. I already tried that many years ago, so I was like, nope, not getting me on that. I'm going to sit here and play this, but just, all the skateboarders, lots of, real life ones, whether it was Tony Hawk or any of the other ones whose names I don't really know. I remember the one guy, I think his name was like Bob Burnquist. He ended up getting his own game. I think he was originally on Tony Hawk, and his was cool because you could rail slide down the back of a dinosaur skeleton, but that was about the high point of that game. Tony Hawk really had like the lock on the skateboarding game. Then you'd get like it kind of brought out the BMX game. And then, of course, what I think would be one of the lower points of gaming was the BMX XXX.
Oh, yeah. Which is funny enough, the most uncensored version of BMX XXX is on the GameCube. It's ironic. It is so fucking ironic, dude. You'd think it'd be like the Xbox or PS2, but no, like the PS2 and Xbox was actually like censored, but the GameCube version wasn't. I remember.
That's just, man, when you get those things like that, DOA beach volleyball. Like, yeah, I know this stuff is like way weirder and grosser and creepier in Japan, but we're not in Japan. These games are just pervy, man. I don't get it. The guy game, come on.
Oh my god! But yeah, before we get into games we've been playing recently, what's some of your last thoughts on Tony Hawk 5, James? Are you going to get it when it gets cheaper, or?
I think, yeah, when it gets cheaper, I definitely want to read up a little bit more on it, watch some things. If it drops down in price, and when it drops down in price, I think I might check it out, but I've really, with it coming out, been wanting to go back and play some older Tony Hawk. So before I get that, I'm probably going to be busting out my old games and give those a shot and go back in time, see if they're still just as fun.
Yeah, I will say I'm in the same boat, man. I'm going to wait for the price to drop, and knowing as much people are enjoying Tony Hawk 5 or lack thereof, I know the price is going to drop really, really fast. I look at it, it's a $60 game now. I could see it already being, I can already see used copies probably being in the store right now. I probably could go to GameStop and get a used copy, but I could see it dropping in a month. And I did want to also mention, before we go into games we've been playing recently, they did release a Tony Hawk HD collection on Xbox Live and I believe PSN, and it's fun, but it doesn't, something's missing about it. One of the things is they took a lot of the original music out of it. The course tracks are about the same. They're a little different, but it just something doesn't feel right, and that's the same thing I've heard about Tony Hawk 5, that, it doesn't play bad, but it's not as solid as the previous entries of Tony Hawk that we grew up with. And I think a lot of people were basing it off of nostalgia. I'm pretty sure they could go back and play the old Tony Hawk, and they're like, wow, this isn't as fluid and as great as I thought it was. So, Tony Hawk 5, I could see it, being hated on now, but maybe later on people are like, you know what, that game wasn't too bad, because I think a lot of it too is, some people they're not even playing the game now. They're like, oh, man, everyone hates it. I just don't want to touch it. But I still want to play it. I'm just going to wait for the price to go down.
Definitely. Maybe it'll hit those Aliens Colonial Marine levels, and
oh, yeah.
drop down really quick. You
get
can
like
score it for $5.
Yeah, get it for a good $5. But yeah, going to games been playing recently, and usually I pass it over to you, James, but I did want to mention a game I've been playing recently, because other than Mario Maker, which I'm still playing that, I haven't really been playing too much, but I got to play it. I got to play the demo to Mighty Number 9.
Wow, the mythical demo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they, I believe we announced it on the last episode. We were talking about, of course the game got delayed, and then they were coming out with a demo, and the demo ended up getting delayed. Well, a week after that, they were like, okay, we're releasing the demo. It's DRM free, which was cool, so you could, do like me and just be like, hey, you want a Mighty Number 9 demo? Because it was only available to the backers. But I'll be the first to admit, I went to some people, I'm like, hey, you want a Mighty Number 9 demo? And I'd send it right to them. And it was on PC only, which was kind of cruddy, but I played it, and, it's not a bad game by all means. I can't really complain about it too much, because there's nothing I can really do about it, because I've already, I'm already getting the game. There's no denying it. But it's definitely, when I think about the money that was put into it, the $4 million, and I look at the game and I see that the demo is the finished product, because they said the game is finished. They actually delayed it because they were working on the online. So the prosthetics and the gameplay and the graphics, blah blah blah, that's the game. And it looks very, very, I don't want to say bland, but it looks very empty. I was like, this looks like an app game. It made me feel like I was playing a game on my iPad. But gameplay-wise, it wasn't too bad. And I will say, if you're wanting to play this game expecting a replacement for the Blue Bomber, you're going to be kind of disappointed. But if you just want, an old-school run-and-gun platformer like Mega Man, then you might enjoy it. That's definitely what I'd say about it.
Yep, it's finally there, though. That was one of those games, man. It's gone through its, kind of like the Retro VGS has gone through its share of controversy and such. It's seems to be a thing with whether it's a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding thing.
Oh,
You're gonna run into some things like that.
Definitely. So what all have you been playing recently, James?
Well, I was sitting and I was thinking, and I had my old Xbox, and it's modded, it's got emulators and stuff on it, and it plays burned games. So I started wondering if it could play Japanese games. I looked up some stuff on it, and it seems like a lot of people that had modded, I don't know if it was the same as mine, but it seemed like they could play it. So I took a chance. I ordered a game, spent $5 on the game, $5 on shipping, so I wouldn't be out that much money, and I got the Wild Rings, which is a Japanese wrestling game on the original Xbox from 2003. And I popped it in, wouldn't recognize the disc. And I said, well, let me change the region. Changed the region to Japan, and then it loaded right up.
Nice.
So I was pretty excited. There's not really the most, because, Xbox was way bigger over here than it was in Japan. So there's, most of the good stuff we got. But I'm always up for a new wrestling game. And I got this one, and this one has has some real Japanese wrestlers, some real American wrestlers under fake names, kind of like how Fire Pro and some of the other series did, the AKI ones. And you got lots of different styles. You got just pro wrestling, you got like collegiate wrestling, karate, sumo. So you got a big mixture of like fighters, which reminded me a lot of Fire Pro also. How they just kind of have like the whole like shoot fight type of match you can do. And this one has the same thing where you can set it up for that type of options. And, I really enjoyed it. The graphics, as far as the movement in the ring, it's pretty fluid. It has up to 8 people in the ring at one time, maybe 9 with the referee if you do like a rumble. And, that was pretty impressive for the time. The way it plays, it works with meters at the bottom that bounce back and forth. So I haven't truly got it down how it works. But that's what I kind of enjoy. I enjoy when I get a Japanese wrestling game and it plays different. Like, you don't know what to do right away. You kind of got to figure it out. You can really find some cool, extra options and moves along the way. Kind of like the Giant Grom series on the Dreamcast. To me, it played kind of unlike any other wrestling game. And this one, while some of the basics are similar, it's a different style and totally worth the $10. And I was really happy it worked. So I'm gonna keep my eye out. I found a Conan game on Xbox that was only released in Europe, and a game called Ghost Masters, which looked a lot like Haunting with Poltergeist on the Genesis.
Oh yeah,
where you kind of have to haunt the house and scare people out. Both those were UK only games, so I figure since I can play them, I might check those out. And then, let's see, what else was I playing? I played a lot of that. There was something else. Well, okay, I played a little bit of, recently my brother sent me Batman Arkham Origins and Arkham City. And I happened to finally watch the show Gotham on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been completely obsessed with that show for the past couple of days. It is my absolute favorite superhero anything, I think. Definitely favorite Batman-related product, even though Batman's not really in it. He's a little kid. Focuses all on... I know I'm late to the party. People have probably already watched this.
Yeah, season 2's about to come out.
Yeah. Focuses on Commissioner Gordon, when he starts out, young Batman, and all the origins of all the villains. And it's an amazing show. I sat on Thursday on my day off, and I watched like 10 episodes just all day.
Isn't that such a good feeling, though, when you can just veg out and just watch a whole series in one setting?
Man, it came down to like, okay, Gotham, and there's this show called The Zoo, which I always wondered if it was about animals attacking people, which I love. And I found out it was. So I was like, Gotham or the Zoo? Gotham or the Zoo? I was like, I'm going to go with Gotham. And it hooked me. I love the actors in it, just all the origins. And while playing that, I was like, man, I want to play some Batman now. So I was going to put in Arkham Asylum because they had an episode that was, had to do with the asylum. And I never finished that one. But I couldn't find my copy. So I was like, well, I got Batman Origins. I was like, that's the first one technically, right? Then I might as well start with that. So popped in a little bit of Batman Origins for a bit, and Batman games they're one of the greatest superhero franchise games I think ever. They really did a solid job with all the ones I played, and I played that for a little bit, and it was fun. And I had to get back to Gotham. I had to get back, and then I watched more the next day, and I still got a few episodes left. There's 22 in the season. I think I've watched about 16 or 17 episodes, and I recently got Hulu, so now I can watch the new episodes as they come out also, and just not left there hanging in nothingness, for a year till it comes on Netflix. So I heard the second season's great, and I really can't recommend it enough. I know I was telling you about it, and you said you hadn't checked it out. I just highly recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of didn't like it because they felt like, I guess maybe it wasn't staying true to the comic books or something like that. But, honestly, Batman and comics, they all have their own origins, and it changes like freaking panties. So, I mean, it's just like, just watch it for what it is, and, you could find enjoyment from it. I mean, hearing you talk so highly of it, and I know you and I have, very similar tastes when it comes to stuff, really makes me want to check it out. And I will go ahead and say this, James, because it's free on YouTube. My friend, Magnus X1, Anthony, he recommended it to me, and I'm about to watch it very soon, but it's a really cheesy movie called Miami Connection.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've seen that before.
Oh,
Friends
man, I'm about
together,
to watch it.
Honesty, loyalty. Oh, man. Yeah, it's, I love that. My wife actually even ended up watching that movie with me. It was just so bad. But yeah, the Gotham, and like I said, I was a huge fan of, the Batman Year One animated movie, which I know is like based on a series, and it also had the young Gordon and Batman as he was just kind of starting out. And I think I like the Gotham so much because it's kind of related to that. It's something with that series just really hit me, and it's actually making me curious about the actual comic series, the Batman Year One itself too, to where, I might go, and I'm not a big comic guy, but it's making me interested in that. And then I'll go on, and I just missed getting these, so I'll be able to talk about them more next episode. But along with the Japanese Xbox game, I ordered 2 Famicom multi-carts. One that has 400 games and one that has 200 games. And
it's all Tetris.
No. That's the good thing. I looked up this one and how some of those little controllers you plug in, Contra Level 1 will be one game, Contra Level 2 will be one game. This one actually has 400 different games. Now, maybe 100 on the 400 cart are like homebrew style ones. So not as full and complete, but they are individual games, and it has, a mixture of Japanese, American, some are just modded titles, but it does have a full 400 games, and the other one has a full 200 games, and I got them both for $25, so I was like, I gotta try this. I was like, I love getting the multi-carts like that and seeing what's on there, because I got a few Game Boy ones, and they're pretty terrible. They repeat a lot of games, but this one apparently no repeat. So next episode, I'm really excited to play this. The mailman tried to deliver it. I meant to leave him a note to sign for the package for me, but I forgot, and I had the slip, so I won't be able to get it till Monday at least. But I have some days off from work next week, so I'll be able to sit around and play 600 something games. So really looking forward just to seeing, what's on there. And I have a Famicom player, and apparently this doesn't work on actual Famicoms from what I heard, but it plays on any of the clone systems that'll play them. So I'm just really curious to check it out. I'm sure there's some really cool games I've never seen, and I'm sure there's lots of crap that I'll never want to see again.
Awesome. Well, this is going to conclude another episode of Xsgaming Podcast, and I want to say, first of all, thanks guys for taking a listen, and just a quick plug. If you guys want to check out some more Xsgaming Podcast goodness, be sure to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/XanderScullion. Also, been doing a lot more live streaming. Now, Sometimes I do it on Twitch, sometimes I do it on YouTube. I've found myself doing more on the YouTube stream just because people already know me there as opposed to Twitch. But, you know, if I ever go on Twitch and you guys like watching Twitch, it's Xsgaming 308. That's my Twitch handle. And also, I just want to do another shout out, because I'm pretty sure you guys know by now that I'm also helping out Johnny Millennium and Alpha Omega Sim with their podcast, Lords of Thunder. It's off the new website, finalbosses.com. Which Final Bosses is a really cool website that it features, you know, the Game Chasers, 8-Bit Eric, GameSack, Johnny Millennium, Alpha Omega Sin, Re-Rez, a lot of good YouTubers, and I'm really honored to be able to help these guys out. And the podcast has been going really, really well, and I'm looking forward to more episodes. And yeah, that's pretty much my little last spiff right there. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, or listening in this case, and as always, happy gaming.